So today we're going to be talking for a little while about figurative language. So figurative language, think about it this way. Language can be categorized in two ways, literal and figurative. Literal language are the words that mean exactly what they say. An example would be Public Enemy was the best rap group of the 1980s and early 1990s. So if you don't know Public Enemy, they had a bunch of really great albums back then. Chuck D, Flavor Flav. But that sentence right there means exactly what it says it does. Figurative language, on the other hand, features words that mean something beyond what is stated. An example will be, Public Enemy was the Tyrannosaurus Rex of hip-hop in the late 1980s. So let's think about this for a second. Public Enemy was the Tyrannosaurus Rex of hip-hop in the late 1980s. Here's Public Enemy. You know, you got Flavor Flav, Chuck D. And here's a T-Rex. Do these guys look anything alike? Of course not. Public Enemy did not look or sound like a Tyrannosaurus Rex in any way, but they do have something in common. Like the Tyrannosaurus Rex in the dinosaur kingdom, Public Enemy was one of the biggest and most intense hip-hop groups making their music in their time. So Tyrannosaurus Rex is a big, intense dinosaur. Public Enemy, big, intense rappers. And so that's an example of figurative language. It says something beyond what is said literally. So there are several types of figurative language. We have alliteration, onomatopoeia, hyperbole, simile, metaphor, and personification. I want to talk really briefly about figurative language and how it's used in hip-hop. A lot of the examples I'm going to include today are from hip-hop and rap. So rap is a form of poetry. If you listen to rap, you've already heard countless examples of figurative language. And like I said, I'll try to include some examples so just to make it a little bit more relatable. So first we're going to talk about alliteration. So alliteration is the occurrence of the same letter or sound in two or more words that are in close proximity to one another. Here's a guy who does alliteration a lot. His name's Eminem. He's a rapper. Some of you may know him, some of you may not, but that's okay. One of his lines says, "Best believe somebody's paying the Pied Piper." In this line, Eminem makes extensive use of alliteration by repeating the B and the P sounds. Best believe somebody's paying the Pied Piper. Now you'll notice a lot of times people think of alliteration as the sound having to be at the beginning of the word, but that's not always true. In this line right here, best believe it's at the beginning, but he also has the B sound in somebody, and that's in the middle, best believe somebody, and then the P in Piper is also in the middle, and so it's just a repetition of consonant sounds. Onomatopoeia is the next one. Onomatopoeia means the formation of a word from a sound associated with what is named. I'll say that one more time. The formation of a word from a sound associated with what is named. So two examples of onomatopoeia are huh and sizzle. We have a couple of pictures to go along. Huh, that sound, it sounds exactly like when you say it, and it means, of course, clarification, being kind of confused, but sizzle, it sounds just like what the word means. Two other examples, bang and buzz. Those comic book words, guys, you all know onomatopoeia. Bang, the word is spelled just like it sounds and what it means. Buzz, the same way. To buzz, it's kind of there in the word. So next one we're going to talk about hyperbole. Hyperbole is a dramatic over-exaggeration, such as in the sentence, "I'm so hungry I could eat a horse." Now, you would probably die if you ate an entire horse, and you would be a bad person, but that's an example of hyperbole. Another example of hyperbole, which is used all the time in rap, is "So many watches, I need 8 arms," said by Jay-Z. That guy right there. Now, that would be a lot of watches. If you had 8 arms, it would have to cover, that'd be hundreds of watches. And he probably doesn't have that many. So that's over-exaggeration about the amount of watches that he owns. Next is simile. Simile is a phrase that compares two seemingly unlike things using like or as, such as in the simile "smart as a fox." So foxes, they're known to be pretty smart. So here are two things, two very unlike things. On the left, you have collard greens. On the right, you have Snoop Dogg. So what does Snoop Dogg and collard greens have in common? In one of his songs, he has the line, "Getting funky on the mic like an old batch of collard greens." So here Snoop is comparing his rapping skills to the smell of collard greens that have been in the refrigerator too long. And so both of those things are incredibly funky. Next is metaphor. A metaphor is a phrase that compares two unlike things without using a comparison word, such as like or as. So an example of a metaphor would be, "You're a pig," meaning that you're kind of gross, you may eat too much. A simile would be, "You're like a pig." So you see the difference there. One, you're actually saying that you are something, and the other one is using that word like, as, to compare the two. So let's talk for a little bit longer about metaphors. Metaphors are not always as simple as something like "you are pig." More complex metaphors will use descriptive language and stories to compare two unlike things. And so this guy's another rapper. His name's Common. And he had this song back in 1994 called "I Used to Love Her." And in that song, he compares rap to a woman. And he has this metaphor as a kind of more elaborate, more complex metaphor comparing the two things. Some lyrics from that song are, "I met this girl when I was 10 years old, and what I love most, she had so much soul. She was old school when I was just a shawty. Never knew throughout my life she would be there for me." So the first line, Common started listening to rap when he was 10 years old. He loved how rap music was very soulful. Rap was still in its old school phase back in the 1980s when Common was a boy. Popular artists included Run DMC, the Beastie Boys, Public Enemy. And then throughout his entire life, Common has been able to rely on the music he loves to lift his spirits and support him. So that's comparing, using a metaphor, rap and a woman, trying to explain his love of and relationship with rap in a little bit more complex way. Okay, last but not least, what we're going to talk about is personification. So personification is when human characteristics are applied to animals or inhuman objects. So an example of personification would be, "I was so in love, the wind seemed to whisper her name." Now, the wind doesn't really whisper like a human does, but it's just an example of personification used to show how in love this person is. So not to confuse you, but the last example from "I Used to Love Her" by Common is both a metaphor and an example of personification. So the two don't have to be exclusive. Sometimes in those really more complex metaphors, they use personification to be able to say it. Now, that doesn't take away from personification being its own thing, such as in the sentence that you see above there. I'm just saying that sometimes they can go hand in hand. So here are another couple of rappers. You have Busta Rhymes and Nas. They did a song a while ago called "Fried Chicken," in which they personify fried chicken. They give fried chicken the same qualities as a beautiful woman, and they compare the two using personification. So, "Fried chicken, fly vixen, give me heart disease, but need you in my kitchen." So here are two things that are unhealthy: fried chicken and a bad relationship. They are compared by giving fried chicken the qualities of an attractive woman. Both are seductive and will eventually damage your health. However, if you're only living in the moment, then both aren't too bad. So that's all for this little lesson here. If you go to the content section in Blackboard, you'll find your assignment. And of course, if you have any questions, don't be afraid to ask. Thanks.